So we're going to make a very simple table view, make a new application, demo. Okay. So what we're going to need is a very basic table view right here. We're going to drag it onto the screen, and we're just going to fill up the entire screen with this table view. Okay. Now, once we do that, we're going to give it some basic constraints. Just pin it to all of the edges. Right. So our table view here is inside of our view controller. Now, in order for this table view to work, these are the steps. Right. The first step is you need to be able to click on the table view, go to the very right side with a little arrow. You see that there's a data source and a delegate for outlets. You're going to click on the little plus button here, control, drag this over to this orange view controller thing, right? We're going to let that go, and it's filled. We're going to do the same thing for the delegate, and we'll get into more detail in what exactly these things are next week when we get in depth with table views. So that's the first step. That's letting the table view know that the table view's delegate and data source are this view controller. So now that we have this view controller in the code here, we can address those data source and delegate needs for that table view, right? So that is letting the table view know. Now we have to let the view controller know that this guy is that table view's delegate and data source. So we added up here on the top, UI table view data source, comma, UI table view delegate, right? Just pops right up. So we have these two things. Now, if I click Command B to build the project, we'll get this error. And it says type view controller does not conform to protocol UI table view data source, right? That's the error that we expect to find. And the reason is because you're saying that you are the data source and the delegate of some table view, but you don't have the necessary requirements to fulfill your duties as the data source and delegate. So we need to write some functions in here so that this view controller will be able to handle that, right? So you're saying that you can do the job, but right now you don't have the right functions to do it, right? So what we want to do is, usually what I do is I create a mark, and here I say table view total call methods, okay? And from here on down, I'm going to type table. That's all you need to type, just type table. And you'll see this selection, right? These are all of the prototype methods that we can now have access to because on the top we declared that we were. If we didn't do it, we would not see this drop down, right? We did this, so we have access to that. Now there's a ton of these different prototype methods. There's only 2 of them that is required. So the 2 that are required is number of rows in section, and that is going to return an integer number. So right now we're just going to make it 0. We're going to also need the cell for row at index path, which is this one. Okay, this guy is going to return a cell, right? Now, before we can return a cell, we need to make one, right? So this is what you need to do for a table view controller. So when you get to this point, you go back to the main storyboard, you click on the table view, and over here on this little settings part, you see that it says prototype cells 0. Now we're going to make this 1. So as soon as you click on 1, you see a prototype cell come down. And now in our table view, we have this little drop down that we can access this guy, that one prototype cell. Now once we have this clicked, we can go over here and it'll change to identifier, and we're going to name this specific prototype cell something specific, right? So my cell, that's the identifier for this prototype cell, right? So now, once we have that set up, you'll see that over here it says my cell. That means it's connected. We go back to the view controller and we create a constant called cell, and we set that equal to the, what is it? self.view dot was I ran into this problem yesterday. Hold on. Let me see. DQ cell with identifier Swift3. There we go. tableView.DQ reusable cell. Okay, so we need to type in tableView. But you know, we can't do that because we didn't make an outlet for that table view, right? So we're gonna make an outlet for this table view, this guy. We're just gonna drag it over here. We're just gonna call it my table view. This is an outlet. Once we have that, now we can say self dot my table view dot. And as soon as I click on dot, there's a DQ reusable cell with identifier right here. Boom. Okay. And the identifier is going to be the thing that you named it, my cell. Okay. We're going to force unwrap this because it's optional. And now we can return that cell. Now if we do Command B, the error should be gone. Right? No errors. Right? Now, at this point, if we run the code, we're going to see just a bunch of lines. There's nothing in the table. Right? But it will run and it will load. Now, didn't even load any lines up because there's 0 rows in it. Right? So we can stop this. We're going to create a fixture. Right? And you guys know what a fixture is? It's just some mock data that represents something that you might get from a database. Right? So we're going to create constant r equals to this array of numbers. And this can be anything like that. And now, the number of rows, I want it to be this array's .count. .count, right? So as many as I have here, if I add on to it, this will actually dynamically change depending on that, which is what we want. And also for each cell, we want to set the cell dot text label equals to this array's one of these elements here. And the way we're going to target that is we're going to say self.array of index, right? Because it's an array, it has indexes. And the index that I want to target is this index path dot row. This argument that I got back right here. Index path dot row. And this will be the index that we get. This is the index path dot row is the index of the table of which row it is, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, it goes like that. And we can use that index path dot row to target our array to put the data in each row. Okay, so now that we have that set up, we can run this. Oops, what is that? Text label dot text. There we go. Now we can run this. There we go. See our table, if we drag it, we see the little lines. And I think this is something that had to do with the simulator. The simulator is just it's a little buggy like that. But each of the prototype cells contains the value that we want, right? So that's how you make a really basic table. We'll get into more detail of how this actually works and why it's working like this later on. But just in case you ran into the assignments and you wanted to make something, you can refer to this video to help you do that, right? Cool.